For me, summer travel is always focused around the outdoors, hiking, camping, road trips, that sort of thing. That's what we've got today. I've got a roundup of some of my favorite outdoor adventure gear for the 2024 season. So without any further ado, let's get into it. First up is the Tom Bin Monster Truck Tote Bag. I'm a huge fan of totes when it comes to summer travel and car travel. Just extremely convenient, especially for outdoorsy type of things. Taking this to the beach, taking it for a picnic, anything like that. It's pretty basic on the surface, but has a lot of nice little touches going for it. Just a quick rundown of the specs. It is a 38-liter capacity tote. They do have two smaller sizes available as well, but I wanted to go for the biggest one. It uses a Bluesign approved 630D Cordura. This color here is called Mars Red. It weighs in at 22 ounces. It's made in Seattle, Washington, so always really great to see made in America stuff, and the price for the largest size here comes out to $75. Going over the layout and organization really quick, you have an external access pocket on both sides of the tote, which is really nice, and then on the interior, it's essentially just one large cavern with two different dividers. This isn't a zip tote or anything like that, which has its pros or cons. I think it's really nice for like quick access during a road trip. I think it just makes it a little bit more convenient for a lot more things too, if you want to use it for like carrying groceries and stuff as well. I've been using it for that. It's awesome. You do have little loops here if you want to hook on, key attachment rings or anything like that. The handles have a really nice built-in foam padding, so it adds a ton of the comfort if you're really weighing this thing down with a lot of heavy stuff. If I had one wish list type of item, would be the ability to remove these dividers if I wanted to. If I had a larger item or some sort of oddly shaped thing that could take up the entire cavern. But I do realize that these dividers give it some of the structure, which I really like. So it's kind of trade-offs here and there. You have a little bit of plastic reinforcement on the bottom as well, so that adds to the structure too. But really nice tote, really simple, straightforward design, very burly. I love the padded handles. It looks great. It's made in America, pretty reasonably priced as well. Definitely a keeper for me. Next up is the NOCO Boost Plus Jump Starter. Not the most exciting item on the list here, but a really useful and potentially life-saving one if you spend a lot of time in the backcountry. It's kind of like having jumper cables, except you don't need to rely on a secondary car. This model here is called the GB40. They have a few different models with varying sizes if you have larger engines or anything, but this will handle most standard cars. I've since replaced my battery, but when I first bought my car, I was running into some issues where it kept dying and draining on me. It turns out the battery connection was wonky. Ended up fixing it and was fine, but this thing really saved me a handful of times. It's 1,000 amps and will handle up to 20 jump starts for any engine under 6 liters. You have a few other features here as well, which are really nice. You have a built-in flashlight that can do like an emergency SOS type of strobe. And then you do also have a USB in if you want to charge up your phone or something if that dies. I've had this for a few years now. It's held up and worked really well. Would definitely recommend picking one up, whether it's this brand or another if you don't have one for your car already. Got one of my most indispensable pieces of camping gear up next. This is the Anker SOLIX F2000. Anker was also kind enough to sponsor this week's video as well. They're running some really great deals for Prime Day right now. Be sure to check the links down in the description below. The F2000 power station is an absolute beast though. I've had it for the better part of a year and it has honestly been perfect. It has 2,048 watt hours of capacity and is expandable up to 4,096 watt hours with the BP2000 here. It can handle up to 2,400 watts of power delivery with up to a 3,600 watt surge, more than enough for any camping gear I've ever used, and even enough for a lot of like larger home appliances in the case of a power outage. A ton of versatility with the ports here as well. You have AC ports, USB-C ports, USB-A ports. You even have a TT30 port if you want to plug your RV directly into this. Opens up a ton of possibilities for off-grid camping, or can at the very least save you some money from electric hookups at a campground. Portability is top-notch as well. It's not a small unit with something this big of capacity, but you have an easy tow handle that pops out of the side that you can kind of roll around like a suitcase. The wheels are also nice and chunky as well for any kind of uneven terrain, grass, dirt, gravel, that sort of thing. Specifics aside though, I really can't imagine camping without this thing. After having it for almost a year, I've taken it out on quite a few trips and have had a great time. Opens up so many possibilities having all of this power easily accessible on the go in an off-grid situation. Running fridges, charging an e-bike, camera equipment, power tools. I even ran a portable heater for a winter camping trip earlier this year. It worked great. The build quality is also excellent. They use EV-grade lithium ion phosphate batteries that rated up to 3,000 charge cycles. They also have a really great smart app to control it as well. It makes power management much more easy, especially in a cold winter camping situation if you don't want to get out of your sleeping bag, but you want to adjust some things. I truly can't recommend it enough. Sponsors aside, I've been using this for the better part of a year. I have zero complaints, and it's been such a pleasure to have in my camping kit. Be sure to check the links in the description down below if you want to learn more, pick one up for yourself. Huge thanks again to Anker for sponsoring this week's video. Next up on the list, we have the Helinox Savanna chair. This is an upgrade I've been wanting to make for a long time. I've been a huge fan of the Helinox Chair Zero. It's been my backpacking chair this is the 4th season for 2024. It's excellent for backpacking because it's so light and small, but it's not the most substantial to use in like normal outdoor situations. The Savanna chair has a lot of the features of those big, giant, comfy type of chairs, but with the smallness and the lightness for packability like Helinox is known for. This thing is 4 pounds, and I can still fit 2 of them into a bag, which was essential for me. Carrying them down to the beach or anything like that, that's always been the deal breaker and why I like the smaller chairs. So the packed size is 20 inches long and 6.5 inches in diameter for the cylinder shape here. Like I said, it comes in at 4 pounds, has a 320-pound load capacity. The seat height sits at 17 inches, which is so much more comfortable than the Chair Zero. It's about 25 inches wide, I believe, and somewhere around 44 inches tall. This is a big chair for something that packs down so small. You get a few extra nice features as well for being a somewhat simple type of chair that packs down like this. You do have, almost armrests that go on the side. It's not quite full armrests, but you get a little bit of extra padding. It works and is more comfortable than the video is giving it credit for, I'm sure. You also have 2 cup holders on the sides as well. And behind your head, you have a little sleeve where you can store a puffy jacket or something, get a nice little head cushion behind. I've been extremely happy with these as an upgrade after using the tiny chairs for so long. You're definitely going to pay for the convenience and packability. These chairs aren't cheap. They come out to $220, but if size and weight is a really big concern for you, like it is for me, it might be worth the upgrade. Huge step up in comfort from a lot of the smaller, more packable chairs, and a huge step down in size and weight compared to a lot of the, bigger chairs out there. This is the Tom Bin large travel tray. I've been meaning to check this out for a long time. I know it's a real favorite for a lot of people. It's essentially just a little bowl catch-all type of thing for your everyday carry stuff or whatever else you might want to use it for while you're traveling. You can kind of just dump everything in here, keep it on your bedside or something like that. It's 2.5 liters, 4.25 inches tall, and 8 inches in diameter. You use a bluesign approved 200D nylon ripstop. This is the moss color. You have a bit of structure to the shape. You have one thing that really sold me on it. You have the ability to close this with a drawstring. So the fabric folds up like this and you can close it and drawstring it down. I think this is such a perfect idea for so many reasons. Regular travel type of thing, obviously, nice for that if you're limited on space, but for outdoor type of use, especially for the beach, I think this is the perfect beach companion type of item. You don't want your stuff blowing over. You don't want a bunch of sand in it, anything like that. You can put this in between your beach chairs. Dump your stuff in there if you want to go walk by the water, anything like that. I think it is a perfect idea for like camping and outdoorsy type of stuff, even more than regular travel. Still made in the USA like all the other Tom Bin products, but such a good pickup if you spend any time camping or at the beach. Next couple of items are very location dependent, depending if you live in a buggy area or not, but I do in Oregon and grew up in Michigan, which is also a huge mosquito area. This is the FLEXTAIL Tiny REPEL, essentially their version of the original or most popular thermocell unit. Quick rundown if you're not familiar with these as an idea. These are meant to be like bug repellents, mosquito repellents. You set them out on a table or something, it heats up these little pads and it helps keep a little dome of safety away from the bugs. I've used a few of these from different brands. They all seem to perform pretty well. It's not going to be some magical catch-all, solve all of your problems type of thing, but if it's mosquito season and you're desperate like I am, you'll take any bit of help you can get. So I can't necessarily quantify which one is best for me me personally. I don't know how to test that. The tiny REPEL was nice though because of the smaller size and lighter weight. You have a built-in lantern in here as well. It'll cover up to a 10-foot radius or a 20-foot radius, depending if you have it on the indoor or outdoor setting. A couple of trips out with this, I would describe it as good, not great, but I would also kind of describe every other version of this that I've tried in the same exact way. And I think the Nitecore EMR10 is a great option as well, but it's a little bit heavier than this, but you get a little bit more battery capacity, I believe. I do really want to try out the EMR05, was something new that just came out. I don't have it yet to test, but it is tiny and only weighs 1.5 ounces apparently. That is very compelling for me because this one's pretty lightweight and small. It comes in around 5 ounces, but 1.5 ounces would be really excellent for backpacking. But I just wanted to cover this kind of broadly, whether it's the tiny REPEL or the one from Nitecore or the Thermacell one. You know, definitely pick one up if you're in a buggy area. I've spent time camping with black flies up in the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. Oregon's mosquito season is torture if you go at the wrong time. Any help you can get from the bugs while you're out camping is welcomed. I also do permethrin on my clothes as well, but I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that these exist. It seems like a relatively new category, and they've been coming out with a lot of exciting updates and changes over the past couple of years. And on the topic of bugs, if you spend any time camping out of your car or going into like a drive-in movie or anything like that, these are mesh window covers that go over your door and they allow you to open your windows to get breeze in, but you're not going to welcome, you know, a billion mosquitoes if you're hanging out in your car for a long period of time. These were some generic brand on Amazon called WOPUS. There's a billion different ones. I'm sure they're all fine, but this was just the one I bought, I think because it was the cheapest. It's worked pretty well so far. I usually set up a tent instead of sleeping in my car, but I have tried that in the past, and it would just be really nice to have this in a situation like that, but also too for like drive-in movies or anything. They seem to be having a bit of a resurgence. We've got a couple out here in Oregon. Something to make note of, it is only for the back doors because you have the window on the front doors. So it might kind of work on the front doors, but you're gonna have a bit of a gap. I always use it on the back doors, but something cheap, you know, throw it in your car emergency kit or something. Say you get stranded in a traffic jam, or say you're car camping, or say you're going to a drive-in movie, you know, a few bucks, it is a really nice thing to have. Next on the list is one of the craziest coolers I've ever seen. This is the Oyster Tempo Cooler. If you watch my gift guides from the end of last year, you probably saw it. 6 or 7 months have passed since that video. I've taken out a bunch of times now and have some longer term thoughts. First off, the design. This is a vacuum insulated aluminum cooler. What you get with that compared to Yeti or other rotomolded coolers, you get something that's a lot thinner and lighter and smaller for the capacity. This thing is tiny for a 23-liter cooler. It only weighs 12 pounds and it'll hold 36 cans in here, even with the ice packs. Looking on the inside, they have custom shaped ice packs that go on the bottom. They're meant to be used at fridge temperature, so I think 39 degrees. For moderate weather, I found that the ice packs by themselves will keep everything cool in here for a full day or potentially an overnight if it's cool enough. But what I have been doing is putting in an additional 2 or 3 frozen 1-liter smart water bottles, and that works wonders. It's much easier than putting in loose ice. I've been on 3 and 4 day trips and everything is still frozen on the inside, and that's stuff that came from the fridge that froze in here because of all of the extra cold. So I think it works really well with additional ice. I don't think it's as compelling of a cooler with just the ice packs that they supply here. But that being said, putting in 2 frozen 1-liter bottles is not very much ice compared to how I normally pack my other coolers. Usually want to have at least half full with ice and less than half of the space goes to the food. So this is like 80% food and drink, 20% ice, which is an excellent ratio. It allows you to really use a lot of this space in here compared to most everything else I've tried. I also really like the versatility with this design. The top lid you can hinge open or you can pull off both sides and remove it completely. Makes loading this thing up really nice. With a couple of not so great things, it's not quite as crazy as they advertise where you don't need any ice and it'll last all this time. You know, it's not going to beat the laws of thermodynamics inside of this, but it is an extremely efficient cooler. The only other thing really worth mentioning is the price. This is extremely expensive. It comes out at $500. So it is a premium item. It looks premium in the design. It functions premium with the performance, but you are definitely going to pay for it. You know, alternatively, you could look at something like Yeti. You know, you have some of the downsides with the roto-molded versus the vacuum insulated like we talked about. Another alternative as well, if you want to go even less expensive, you know, I've used a Coleman Extreme Cooler in the past. You have to make sure you're following proper cooler protocol, but that thing works really well. Also, I was talking about this at my wife's picnic birthday party a few weeks ago. If you saw that video, you know, everyone was asking me about this thing. It is such a standout piece, but we were talking about this and about Yetis. You know, cheap coolers will get you like 90% of the way there. You know, it's really a steep curve in the price for that little bit of extra performance. But if you have the cash to spare, this thing is awesome, but definitely no shame in getting a Coleman or something a little bit less expensive. That's going to wrap it up for this week's video. I really hope you enjoyed this one. I'd love to hear down in the comments if you have any outdoor adventures planned for this year. Are you going out in the sunshine doing anything fun? I really want to hear about it. I'm excited. Tomorrow we're going to be going to either the mountains or the beach to film some B-roll for this, so hopefully that turns out well. Thank you again for watching though, and I'll talk to you in the next one.